Welcome back to the Writing Craft podcast, guys. I am your host, Jenna.
And I am your host, Holly, and we are back at last.
Yes, welcome to season 2 of the podcast. As you can probably tell if you're watching on the visual version, a lot has changed since the last season.
Which is one of the reasons why we took a bit of unexpected break. We thought we were going to continue on, but life got in the way a little bit.
Yeah, so from my background, you might be able to tell that I moved in to a brand new place. So we moved in start of this month. I did my whole new office, and so that kind of inspired the topic for today, which was talking about, making your writing space as beautiful and nice as possible. From my perspective, that means having my own office to finally really breathe life into and things like that. And for Holly, it's a little bit of a completely opposite story.
Yes, so from my background, if you're watching it, I was joking with Jenna earlier before we started recording that it might look like I'm in prison. I promise I'm not. I'm staying in a hostel right now on the island of Korčula off of Split in Croatia, and I actually have the room all to myself right now, which is rare. And for my angle of this, I'm going to be discussing how to create that kind of safe, comfortable space for your creative work while you're not at home, while you don't have your home base and all of your comforts.
Yeah, so no matter what kind of writer you are, if you are in a place where you have your own office or some sort of space in your home where you can focus on your writing and it's a stable kind of environment, or if you're constantly on the move like Holly, this is kind of the episode for you to figure out what the hell you're going to do with your space or your lack of space to get your writing creative projects done.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to start off because we did a lot of basics in our first season, and now this is another kind of basic, like where you work is very important, I think, and establishing that space that allows you to be creative in the way that you want to be is going to be so helpful for you on your writing journey.
Yeah, and I think it really changes writer to writer, because I know for me, if I was doing what you were doing, Holly, I have such an envy to be able to do that kind of thing. I do work from home most of the time, and it'd be so nice to be able to just jump around and travel so much, but I also know myself and know that if I was traveling, I would not get a lick of work done. I would not be able to be just the digital nomad lifestyle. I like to be able to go to the same bed every night. I don't think I would be very good in a hostel kind of situation. So I know myself well enough to know this is the environment in which I thrive. Is I'm very much a homebody. I would love to travel, but when I'm traveling, I'd rather just take a vacation versus continue to do my regular stuff. I want to be able to paint the walls, really make someplace a home, and stay someplace for as long as feasibly possible versus the digital nomad, pick up everything every other week and move kind of thing. I'm so envious of everyone who can do that, but I know myself well enough to know I wouldn't do anything.
So the interesting thing here is I am exactly like you. I really like having my home base. I don't like going out. I don't like, a lot of people when they do the digital nomad thing, they're they're going out at night and they're doing the disco scene and stuff like that. And I think I'm not doing the typical style of this because I just want to be left alone the whole time I'm traveling. And it was very hard for me to make this push because I've wanted to travel for a long time. And it's always been one of those things where it's just in my head. It's yeah, one day. And it just got to the point where too many things added up, where it was really clear that I actually did have the opportunity to. And I was like, if I don't do it now, I don't know when I'm ever going to do it again because I'm so dug in. I was so dug in Montreal and making my comfy space. And 100%, I do work a lot better when I am on home turf, which is why it's been very chaotic for me keeping up with everything. So I think that's also probably a bit of an interesting perspective because you would usually expect someone who's a bit more extroverted and social and stuff to be doing this. But I'm introverted, low energy. And it's traveling is amazing, but it is also a lot of work. And I think one of the most important things to me while I'm traveling is trying to keep a bubble and a happy space around myself, especially when I'm in a situation with, multiple people, whether it's a, Airbnb with multiple rooms or a full-on hostel. Because this is one of the things where I thought I will never be able to do this kind of thing, but I'm doing it. So it's quite the challenge. You get to see a lot of rewarding sights, but it's also a lot of work and a lot of effort into creating what I need here. And part of that comes in the form of having a 50-pound suitcase, which I lug around everywhere.
Goodness, yeah. A 50-pound suit. Mine I know would be larger. I'm the type of person who like always has to have a checked bag. Like what was it? Last year or
Yeah.
the year before, when my work had me go to Texas, I was like, what do you mean I don't get a checked bag? They're like, you're only gone for 2 days. Oh, there's Sally's suitcase. I'm like, excuse you, you want me to have clothes for multiple occasions for this work event? Like, I had to have like a formal wear, like a club outfit, which I didn't know was a club outfit. I thought we were going to dinner, so I was not wearing a club outfit whatsoever. And then simultaneously, all of my filming equipment to be able to, and all of my work's filming equipment because I was vlogging and then also doing things for work. So I was like, what do you mean I don't get a checked bag?
Yeah.
Like, I'm supposed to go again this August to another event in Texas for work. The same event, actually, but just I don't like traveling for work. I just said that, and now they want me to carry even more equipment, and I'm not mentally prepared. I'm gonna be like, I need to check.
No.
Let alone lugging it around.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's horrible. Especially as you get into more like remote places and stuff. I haven't been going too remote, but even like certain parts of Italy, there's a lot of infrastructure that just like doesn't work. They're starting to go away, but from my last trip, I went from Ancona in Italy, which is like across the water. I took a ferry overnight to Split in Croatia. And the amount of dragging I had to do with my bag up and down stairs and everything, like most of the wheels, the outer like bouncy rubber layer on them is broken off. And I had calluses on my hands. Like I have not been able to touch my hands for like a day. So it's not all glamorous Instagram pictures, that's for sure. And every time I've had someone like offer to carry my bag, like to put it in a taxi or something like that, I'm like, I'm so sorry. And they look at me and like, I'm traveling for 3 months and I have to film videos while I'm traveling. I have a lot to bring with me. I'm sorry.
I'd be too like paranoid that someone's just gonna be like, oh yeah, let me carry your bag for you, and then just like take off with my bag. I'd be like,
they couldn't.
Yeah, true.
They couldn't. It's so heavy. They couldn't. I had a guy we stopped in Verona, Italy on the way to Brescia where I was staying for a bit. And this guy, like, there are certain men through Europe who are very pushy, and I have been really exhausted by it. But this particular man, he was just like, I'm carrying your bag for you to the bus stop. And he just like grabbed it. I'm like, all right, I guess we're going. And it was fine. But I was just like, he's not going to be able to run off with this. Because my dad said to me, he's like, you shouldn't let someone touch you. I'm like, he literally can't. I would tackle him so fast. And he was like up to here on me. I'm like, fine, carry my bag if that's what you want to do. If that makes you happy.
Like, if it makes you feel bigger. Good job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he didn't like, pester me for anything after that. He just straight up like lugged my 50-pound bag for a few blocks to the bus and then was like, bye. Okay.
Europe sounds so interesting.
It's very interesting. I'll have to like talk about that more separately on my channel. But after that veer off, you should talk about what you've been doing with your move and everything, because you've had quite a big change, and then I guess we can talk about our spaces.
Yeah, so we moved from an absolute minimalist hellscape, as I called it. Holly was over our podcast.
It was fairly like new development-y.
Yeah, so it's still tons of construction, bad roommate situation twice, and just not what we wanted. We literally were supposed to move into a nice, really homey kind of place, and then 2 days before we moved in, they told us, oh, no, you have pests, you can't move in, so we're taking you from our most inexpensive unit to our most expensive unit, and then we ended up in the minimalist hellscape. So the only thing...
Funny how that happens.
The only thing that we liked about that place was the kitchen. Now our kitchen is smaller, which I'm sad about, and that's legitimately the only thing. Everything else about it was horrible. And one of the main things, too, that, I was really looking forward to with the unit we were originally supposed to have is that we had a really big bedroom, and it kind of had, like, this little corner to it that I could have an office in. So I was super excited to have, like, my own space, and then that got completely ripped away from me right when I was expecting
Oh.
to actually have an office about, a little over a year ago now. And so, I was a little bit devastated about that. And then I ended up squeezed back into, the corner of my bedroom. It was really hard to make YouTube videos, and that I talk about it in my recent vlog I just posted today. A moving vlog. You'll be seeing this when the moving vlog is old, but I digress. Yeah, so it was basically impossible to make videos because my desk was pushed against the wall this way and my bed was right behind it. So the angle I had to try and put my tripod and everything was just absolutely insane, ridiculous. And so it made that hard. It made writing hard. Just everything in general was hard. There was no place or space for me to basically do anything. Like if I had published a book, there was no space for me to have stock. There was no space for me to have a lot of things. And technically, that unit was supposed to be bigger than this one. Lies. Lies, I feel like just set up so much better. And so this is my first time in my whole life I've actually had a dedicated writing and creative space because, originally when I started writing, I think it was in the 6th grade, I just had my bedroom. And then when I got my first laptop, I was like sitting at the dining room table. So I'd have like, pretend this is my iPad, but it's my laptop. So I'd just be kind of seated at the dining room table with everybody around me eating lunch, breakfast, dinner. I would have to like move my computer off. Jenna, get your computer off the table every single time I would try to eat dinner, like they want to eat dinner. And so I'd have to have something that was super mobile. So I couldn't have anything like a bunch of notebooks sitting next to me. I couldn't have all of this, creative kind of stuff you can probably see in the background if you're on the video version. And then after my dad passed away and I entered college, I was like, hey, I really need a place to be able to do like homework and other things like that. So I ended up taking over his little corner of the kitchen, which I thought was like perfect. He worked in here for years, so it's got to have a good space, except for it was literally like supposed to be a breakfast nook. Like you were supposed to eat breakfast in like a round table or like
Right.
some bench seating. That's what we had growing up before he put his desk there and stuff. And his desk was literally just a dining table. So I took over that space, and it was literally between the washing machine and like the oven and the kitchen and the fridge and everything, right? So again, just tons of people all the time. I had to constantly cut out noises from my videos. I got really, really tired of trying to do that and wanted some more privacy. I ended up moving into my room at my, my childhood home. And I was literally at some point had my office in my closet. So I had just like rows of clothes behind me that I would try to cover with a tapestry. That was around the time
Oh no.
I think I had already started making YouTube videos by that point. So in a couple of my older YouTube videos, you can literally see me change backgrounds several times as I'm rearranging my room to try and figure out a best way for my desk to be in there. And eventually my desk was basically half my nightstand, half my desk. So anytime I'd have like a water bottle or charge my phone, it'd be on like the corner of my desk. And then eventually when we moved into our first place, I was squeezed in a corner with the bed behind me. And it's been that way ever since we moved a couple of years ago. So I've never had a space like this dedicated to like having backgrounds up, having my art on the wall, having my book, like actually having my bookshelves next to my desk, having all my books in one place. Never happened before. It was always I had to have bookshelves like by the TV in the living room because I didn't have enough like room in my room. And so this is the first time in my entire life I've had just something that's mine that I get to completely do everything with. There's even a full bathroom attached to this, which is kind of crazy. So like even all my makeup and beauty products are like in there, So it's kind of like having my own completely my bedroom without having to like squeeze in a bed in here. And then simultaneously I have my actual bedroom so I can have some separation between my work area and like my sleeping area, which has also never happened before.
That's such a good idea. It's such a good thing to have. I always hear about that being a good thing. I've always been someone who has like the, office bedroom combo. So like it can feel convenient, but honestly, like the most healthy thing is not to get out of bed, walk a couple feet and sit down at your desk. Like it's just not, you shouldn't be doing that if you don't have to.
Yeah, definitely. Like that was one of the things that I really just desperately wanted because I knew like, okay, I'm staring at a blue light like this, and I'll just turn around like this and then get into bed right after having stared at the screen all day. And I
Yeah.
was like, no, I would really like some separation between when I'm working and when I'm relaxing. And now I find myself even relaxing even like more so when I'm upstairs in my room versus like if I were to have my desk there, I would be like, oh, I should work. Or I would get like notifications for work when I'm off the clock and I'd be like, oh, I should probably answer that. Like I know I'm not working, but like it's right there. Like it's so convenient to do so. And I mean, if there's ever a point where it's like, okay, I really want to write late at night. It's perfect because I just have my iPad. I just bring this upstairs and then I can just write in bed, or I can bring a book upstairs. And then I have just not like this decision paralysis, because oftentimes I would go, okay, I want a book, go
Mm.
downstairs. I would look at just the plethora of books on my bookshelf and be like, fuck, what do I read next? Versus if I bring one book upstairs, I know at night this is the book that I'm reading. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's right there.
Yeah, like that's the thing. When you can designate what each space is for, it really helps you just separate mentally and do everything better, I think. And I'm trying to do that a little bit with my schedule in a different way by dividing projects up by day, because that's pretty much all I can do when I don't know like what kind of space I'm going to be in from week to week. So there are always ways, like if you're sitting there and you're thinking, "Oh my god, I don't have like my separate spaces." There are ways to make it work until you can get to a point where you are able to do that, right? And like you said, Jenna, there was so long before you were able to actually do this in the ideal setting.
Yeah, definitely. And there's always like where there's a will, there is a way. Like I started making YouTube videos squeezed into the corner of my kitchen with like an open window to the side yard with cars passing by, hanging up tapestries in the in my kitchen window to try and block out my street so no one could find where I live. And people still did. People still did.
Oh my god.
I literally I met people who knew my YouTube channel in my front yard when I was in high school when I first started making YouTube videos.
Well, like you said, where there's a will, there's
Exactly,
a way.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that I say when I started making YouTube videos, but I mean when I started making like AuthorTube specific writing videos, because I think my first YouTube video ever, I was in my living room and my whole family watched me film. Like, and they were in the background
Oh,
laughing.
how did you do that? How
Well,
did you do that? I have to close my mom out when I'm filming at her place. Like we have these French doors at her place, like the glass doors that you can close. And if she's in the next room around the corner and I have them open, at a certain point I'll have to be like, "Mom, I know that you're out there. I need the door closed. It's nothing against you." And I have to close the glass doors. And so like, how did you do that?
I was a theater kid, and so I was originally starting YouTube as skits. I thought I was going to be the next I Superwoman I. Like, so, I just felt like, okay, I'm doing a performance. Like, I came up with my own script. I had, like, my shot list. Like, I used to be very professional with it.
Oh, nice.
And so...
You're professional.
I kind of fly a little bit more by the seat of my pants these days. But I used to be, very meticulous about the setup of my videos beforehand. I'm kind of going back to that now, just because I find I'm a better, planner, as long as I don't just keep planning and never execute, which is a whole different conversation we could definitely have.
Right.
Yeah. Right on the list of things to talk about next. But I was like, okay, it's a performance. Like my family's seen me perform in theater and stuff like that, so why not?
Okay.
And it was, I said my family was laughing at me, but they weren't laughing at me in like a look at this girl kind of thing. But because I was doing skits and comedy, it was laughing because they thought I was funny. And I've always kind of gotten off on...
You had your own laugh track.
It was like having my own laugh track in the background. And so I kind of, was very proud whenever I could make, them laugh from my content I was making. And so I think in those days, mostly inside of my living room, and then eventually moved into my bedroom doing skits. And then I ended doing skits and then restarted everything, privated all my skits, and then restarted as AuthorTube in the kitchen when I had made that transfer. Because I was doing like YouTube videos in high school doing skits, which is how people in like my high school would recognize me. And be like, "Oh, hey, You're from YouTube. You're that one girl in like our whole school that does YouTube." And I'd be like, "Yeah, that's me," which is a little bit weird because now you know my online presence and also you're in my front yard because I live down the street from my high school. So I would walk home and people would know where I lived. And then later on I had people who they knew my YouTube channel and they knew me from where I worked at a bookstore, because the bookstore was also down the street from the high school.
Oh no.
And then they would see me outside of my home and be like, "Oh, I know you from from the bookstore I cannot name. I know you from the bookstore." And I'd be like, "Yeah, hi. No, I totally don't live here. What are you I'm just walking. Like, I'm just on a little walk. This isn't my house. Please don't follow me here." But, all of that to say, where there is a will, there is a way. So if, I could do all of those crazy things, like you can find an area in your space to kind of try and make as beautiful as you can. put up with it for as long as you can, really carve out space for yourself too, because like I had to advocate for myself a fucking lot to be able to even get to move into the kitchen, to be able to get my own bedroom, because I shared it with my sibling for a long time. And so I had to advocate for myself, like, hey, we need to figure out another situation. I am a college student sharing a bedroom with a middle schooler. Like, this is not going to work, you know?
Yeah, just no, that
Yeah.
doesn't fly.
So it was, advocating for myself in a lot of different ways, between the bedroom, between getting, an area in the kitchen to work in, to, being fun, getting the nerves to be able to perform in front of my family, skits that I wrote to be able to even get my start. Because I know, had I not started when I did, the likelihood that I would have kept up with it at all in college would have been like non-existent. Because college is much harder than high school is.
Absolutely.
And I learned so much over such a long period of time that now I get to implement, now that I'm like fully in a space of my own, that otherwise would have been far more difficult if I had just been like, okay, I'm going to wait for the perfect environment for me to be in to start. I'm not going to, like, I see so many people do this. We're like, I'm not going to start YouTube and I'm not going to start writing my book until I have like my own office. Okay, well, when is that going to be? If you have no space in your home for that, you're going to have to find somewhere to work with in the meantime. And always waiting for the perfect environment just doesn't work. You have to start messy and start early, and then kind of just learn from there.
That's so important too, because I've had a couple friends who want to start YouTube, and for me, I wanted to, like, I wasn't one of the early YouTube viewers, so I missed out on a lot of the, like, the whole YouTube 1.0 and stuff like that. I started watching YouTube in a real way when I was in Montreal. So I think I was like 26. So like that's quite a bit older for YouTube viewers. And before that, like I guess people would send me videos, but I wasn't subscribed to anyone. I wasn't like actively on it in any way. And then I had a ex-boyfriend actually show me a couple channels and I was like, oh, and then I started digging into it. So since I was about 26, I was like, I would kind of like to do this, but I'm also kind of terrified. So there were a lot of years where I just kept trying to think, what is the exact perfect way to do this? And what kind of channel am I going to have? And like, how do I do this? I'm just going insane and wanting the perfect setup and dreaming about like all the little, knickknacks and, all those classic YouTuber things you see people have, like that, IKEA square shelf with all the little things in it and stuff. I'd be like, do I need to get one of those and all of this stuff? And I think this is a good thing for someone who wants to jump into doing anything really. If you get that one little twinge of I'm just going to do it, like jump, because that's how it hit me. I was like, you know what? One day I just thought I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do a YouTube video. And I did, and it was lame. But I put it up and then it just went from there. And what you said was also a good thing about like how it's good you started before you got into a more difficult situation, because for sure, if I had not established something, even as messy as it was to begin with, traveling now, like I would not be doing YouTube videos while traveling. So like I've built up enough, grit and stamina by just learning and making mistakes and stuff like that now I can just sort of move forward and I can do this in any kind of situation. So it's always a good idea. If you want to do something, just start. It might be embarrassing at first, but like I think everyone's first YouTube video is kind of stupid. Like no one has a perfect first YouTube video. You just don't. Like in mine, there's one part where like one of the things that kicked me off with doing videos was just finding the right like free editing software that made sense to me, because I had done a film course with like very old editing software. So the newer stuff didn't make sense for me. So I found something that was like the older stuff and I was like, perfect. And there's this one point and I was so proud that I figured out how to zoom in on a video, and I like zoomed in when I did finger guns. I'm like, what? Why? So
you can't beat these. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's like if I was to give advice to any creative person in any pursuit, like the two most powerful things I think you can do for yourself in this day and age is write a book and have a YouTube channel. Like, period.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I I've been in kind of a reflective mood recently, and one of the when I kind of look back on my writing journey, even though I have not published a book yet, like I have learned so much about myself, about other people, about my creative, just everything, from being a writer. Like I originally got my start on Quizilla back in like 6th grade middle school.
Oh my, I haven't heard that in
Yeah.
so long.
And then I
Oh
was,
my
you know,
gosh. Yeah,
yeah,
that
and
I
then I was on like
remember.
Wattpad. I was a Watty Award winner. Like, you know, I earned my first money ever in this world. Like the first dollar amount I ever earned was from winning a Watty Award and getting $200, which to a teenager
Nice.
is huge, you know?
Oh, that's
I
huge. I was a fiction press fanfiction.net fan
yeah.
art central girly. So we didn't there wasn't a lot of rewarding going on there, just a lot of insanity. So you definitely picked the better route, I
Yeah, well,
think.
like I've never been able to stick with fan fiction for whatever reason. I've tried a couple times. I have like one thing on.
Mhm.
I think I have two things on. No, I have one thing on fanfiction.net and I have one thing on AO3 on completely different accounts. One was from like Tumblr
Oh yeah.
days in high school, and then the other one was like somewhat recently, like 3 4 years ago. Like, and it was literally just like one short each, and that's it. That I've never been able to make something larger.
Same, same. Like I did a lot of fan art, but fiction I couldn't get into as much because like I just wanted it to be my own. So I'd write sort of the start of fan fiction and then it would just turn into my own thing every time. And then I would have to rename the characters that I took from someone else and make them
Yeah,
something
well, I mean,
different.
this is off topic, but that's a lot of where my book ideas come from. Is I go, oh, I loved this story, whether it's from a movie,
Mm.
a TV show, usually a video game, and I'll be like, but I would prefer it if it was more like this, and then slowly that divulges into just its
Yeah.
entire, you know, new universe. So like my space opera was originally kind of inspired by Mass Effect. My Viking book I'm working on now was Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have whips that are inspired by Dragon Age Origin, Dragon Age 2, and then I have a new vampire whip inspired by Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3. Like, you know, it's
Nice.
she goes for a lot of different fucking places, but mostly for me, it's video games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why gaming is very good for. Oh, that would be a great episode
Ooh,
talking about gaming and writing.
100%. Yeah,
Absolutely
that's
do that.
going on the list.
Yeah. So yes. So in working on your space, like, you know, what have you done in your new workspace to foster your
Yeah,
creativity?
I think one of the big things was painting, and so that was the very first thing we did when we got into here. Was at like, you know, in my childhood home, my bedroom from the time I started high school, I think the first month of high school I slept on the couch in the living room because my room wasn't finished yet, and that's where I had been sleeping for a while. And then we finally got into my room that they had
Mm.
redone from my brother's room. Like my brother grew up and it was like a dark green color, but you know, he had like a dark green, you know, bedroom and all of this stuff. And then we moved in there, and because it was supposed to be me and my siblings, it was half blue and half purple because those are the, you know, the colors that we chose, and it was very very bright colors, I would say. And it's still painted this way to this day. It was one of the last things that like my dad and my mom worked on together before he passed away. So, you know, one of the things we said was, okay, if anyone else moves into this room, the agreement has to be you leave the paint, right? Like, you know,
Okay.
even though it's very, very bright, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to necessarily stay in such a bright room anymore. But it was very nice for, you know, a high school self.
I had the like red, green, and purple and yellow room when I was younger. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely, you know, bright kids colors. And then we moved into our first ever apartment. Everything was very beige, and I was like, I'm not really one for liking this beige color and everything, but we just kind of left our last place and everything was just stark white,
Mm.
matte,
Yeah.
gross paint. Everyone knows the superior paint is satin. I don't know
Yes.
what was up with this fucking matte, gross paint. And so getting back into here, it was everything was beige again. But I was kind of like, you know what, we're gonna make it our own, because I basically felt like, you know how like babies need color, like therapy, like they need
No,
color.
like
I felt
it's
like a baby who had been in like a minimalist house their whole life and was seeing color for the first time.
no,
Like
it's important.
I
Like
felt like I was colorblind.
there have been like scientific studies on the best colors that foster creativity. Like if you have blues in your art studio, then like you're going to be more creative. It's so interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And that, you know, that was part of the inspo for in here. So like the walls are purple, the ceiling is blue. There's a lot of those cool, like, you know, magic-y, spacey colors that are in
Hmm.
here and everything. I painted like stars on the ceiling, a
Oh,
little bit of an homage to my like a little bit classier of a version of the paint stars that we
Yeah.
had on the ceiling of my
Or
bedroom
those
growing
like
up.
glow in the dark
Uh,
ones and stuff.
my brother, when he had the room, actually had those, and then my parents did like the spray paint space art on the ceiling, and it's like it's pretty, it's still up there to this day, and it's pretty cool because basically it looks like the ceiling is being ripped open to reveal like the space
That's
nebula and
awesome.
stuff. And at the, at the time, it was a big thing at the time. I think it's coming back now, but we use spray paint to create like space art.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and so we did that a lot growing up, and so they had that on the ceiling and things like that. Oh yeah, so that was one of the things that we first did when we got in here, is I wanted to paint everything all these pretty colors. That really inspired me. It was kind of an homage to my like childhood room a little bit, with the stars on the ceiling, but a little bit classier of a version of it. And that was kind of the thing we did everywhere, is we just painted every nook and cranny we possibly could, with at least one accent wall, to kind of get a little bit of that desperate color we needed after
Yeah.
being in that stark white place.
Awesome. That's a good idea. I always used to do that in my places. When I got to Montreal, I stopped, but it was because the apartments in Montreal are so like they have so much detail in the character that there isn't a lot of wall showing. And I would use wall stuff because in Winnipeg, when I was in Winnipeg, that was the first thing I always did. I got into a new place and I just like absolutely painted everything and went nuts, like wallpapers and all of that. And then a lot of the time, because of renting, I'd have to paint things white after, and I was just so tired. So I wound up in these places where I would just like let it be white, but put up tapestries, and we had all these like this really cool woodwork and stuff, so it was manageable. But yeah, I completely understand that need to just like get in and put those colors down, and it just like it immediately size. These are flat, so it's okay. What I learned is it's actually easier to bring stuff like this because it has more space this way, but it's not as thick, and that actually will work a lot better when you're traveling. So if you're a writer who's traveling and you're like, I'm going to get a really cute, thick little notebook, no, like just aim for the larger flat one because it's going to be so easier to manage. Like I promise you.
Yeah, I have a couple of those little notebooks, and I have never ever used any of them that I have ever been given because my handwriting is so big. But I would write like 3 words. Like it doesn't work for me. If
Yeah,
you have
like
really small, tiny handwriting, and you're like taking notes about the beauty of a statue you're seeing on your travels, you might be able to pull that off. But for the most part, just get the other one.
these are my emergency ones. So I brought a couple little ones because they're very thin, and these are the ones that like I can throw in my little bag when I'm out and write down here if I don't want to write on my phone. And yeah, it's like there's not a lot of writing going on. I have like sanguine equals born in Centera. It's their homeland. And then I have Terran does not equal human, like it's just, and then humans equal whatever. It's just like the tiniest hilarious little notes with just like prophecy in the middle of it. So
Yeah.
that's what I use these tiny notebooks for the most basic, like I need to write it down in a moment. But yeah, bigger, flatter notebooks, good.
That's so funny too. And I think everybody's different. So like when I am at my desk here, I'm a very much like a tactile person. So for the most part, like I have like a bunch of journals here. I have a bunch in the closet in my office. Like I want to be able to physically write things down. But when I'm
Mm-hmm.
traveling, if I have to go pull something out other than my phone, like I'm not writing it down. So
Yeah.
even when I was in like Hawaii and when I was in, Toronto, Texas, like wherever I am, I'm just using this thing for the most part and maybe my iPad. And like I brought this to Texas for that work event. I had the same type of notebook. I bought it multiple times, and I don't think I picked this up a single time. And I think for a lot of people, especially like when I was in Hawaii, which also don't go there. The indigenous people don't want you there. I didn't know that at the time. I have to let people know that ahead of time. I wasn't aware. But one of the great things about that is that it's a lot of natural beauty. So if you're going to some place where it's really, really natural, I would try to avoid bringing your notebook just in case you leave it behind, you accidentally tear a page off, something like that, because you want to leave no trace when you're on things like hikes and trails and things like that. So either be very careful with a notebook if you do bring it, or just use your phone. So like I was on a walk in Hawaii, and I think it was a Waea Point or something like that is what it's called. And it's the part of the Big Island where they said that like souls would jump off into the ocean, and that's like kind of their jumping off point to the afterlife. And it's gorgeous, stunning, and I picked up unfortunately a lot of fucking trash on that hike and brought it back to throw it away and things like that, because I was really pissed off about it. That people would treat
Tourists
such a
can be the
beautiful spiritual place
worst.
that way.
Yeah. I was
They really
in
can
the
be.
Pantheon. I was in the Pantheon in Rome. And you know those they're like baptism, I don't know what you call them. I have no idea. I'm like so non-religious. I don't know what you call them, but they're like these wells that you would put water, like holy water in and stuff.
Yeah.
The Pantheon, it's like ancient. I walk in and someone had used it as a garbage can. And I was just like and I like took the garbage out and the security guard was thanking me. And it's just like yeah, this is a whole tangent which I won't get into, but you know, being a tourist, I hate being grouped in with tourists because massively tourists suck. Like they're the worst. They're really the worst.
Yeah, only that's why people are, you know, saying now like don't go to Hawaii, because they've had so many people doing that kind of shit, especially to the natural beauty.
It was like that in Oaxaca as well. Like my friends who went there were very aware like of the situation, and I forget the term for it now, but there's a practice in Oaxaca of like putting work in, like manual labor in, if you were going to visit there and try to integrate into the community at all. So they were doing a lot of that. And like, I was lucky to go there and be in more of an integrated setting. But like, yeah, if you are not going to put that effort in and that respect in, like, do not go there. Don't go to Oaxaca. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah. Definitely. Like, I think as a tourist in general, if you're going to come in with the idea of, I'm great because I'm an American, and I'm going to go over here and assert myself.
And it should be exactly, like, it should be exactly the way I want it, like, the way it was back home, and everything should cater to me and be exactly the same. And, like, if I don't get the same level of service, then it's a problem. Like, no. You're in a totally different place, totally different culture. Like, deal with it.
But, yeah.
Anyway.
For real. But yeah, when I was on that hike and I was coming back from it, I kind of, like, I was hugely inspired by that location and everything, and I was really introspective, and I was like brainstorming a lot of things unintentionally, even for my queer space opera Spaceborne. And so I like stopped like midway, like, see, we could tell you, I like dead ass stopped in the middle of our like hike on the way back home, and I was like, I know how to fix this plot hole. And so I was like on my phone like jotting down a million things, and my goodness, like, one, it rains like crazy in Hawaii, so if I had a notebook, it would have just gotten soaked. It would have gotten ruined. I wouldn't have been able to read my notes. And then versus like, you know, I'm not that comfortable like typing on my tiny phone, but I did it anyways, especially because the last thing you want to do is end up, you know, your notebook gets wet, ruins your notes. Two, it ends up probably like falling apart in your hand, and then you leave a trail of fucking paper everywhere you're going. And so I was able to write down all these notes and everything, and I, you know, it's just one of the ways that travel can be really inspiring and things like that. And so even with all the cons you've had from the digital nomad lifestyle, like there's pluses to it as well. And so no matter what path you're taking, if you're in a living situation that you're not happy with, a situation where you can have an office, where you can't have an office or a writing space, or if you're a digital nomad traveling the world, or if you've never traveled before, like, no matter what your situation is, there are ways that you can make the best out of what you've been given to go and excel in whatever creative pursuit that you're going after.
Exactly. And I mean, think of it this way. You're a creative person. You can brainstorm. You can always come up with very cool ways to make your space yours, no matter where you are.
Yeah, no matter if that's paint, crystals, books, good bookshelves and not Billy bookshelves, or if you have to get Billy's, okay, fine.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, yep. Whatever it is, like, and I mean, that's just further proof too. Like, if you feel like it's embarrassing, or like you don't want to show it off or anything like that, like, you don't have to if you don't want to, but like, I promise you, someone else has something even weirder in their space. Like, one of the things I always come back to when I'm like, oh, you know, like, it's a little bit weird if I'm like showcasing all my smutty romance books, but like they're so pretty at the same time I want to, but I'm also like, no, that's what I'm writing right now. And even if my covers don't look like that, I'm going to showcase them in my videos, as long as they're not like too rated R. But like, if I can go and have like, I'm gonna put that there, right? But then I think back on like one of my favorite creators, Sarah Cannon, and like her whole office space. She's obsessed with Hello Kitty. She's a grown adult who has a plethora of Hello Kitty merchandise in the background of
I
all her
love it.
videos. I can have my smutty books if she can have Hello Kitty, right? And she has tons of people. Like, people
Absolutely.
don't think, oh, that's so embarrassing. People are like, oh my god, I love Hello Kitty. And anybody who doesn't like Hello Kitty is just like, okay, that's her thing, right? So
Yeah.
if I'm embarrassed by all of my Funko Pops I have in my living room, or like, because just me, I have a lot, and the fact that they're
Yes.
mostly from
It's
children's
a
cartoons,
it's an excellent
okay.
collection.
Oh, thank you. It's gotten larger because Steven combined all of ours together.
Nice.
And then Jay's have migrated somewhat down here too, so it's a fantastic party. But yeah, like, it just own your weird thing, because there's going to be someone out there who likes your weird thing, and I think you should still share that. So even if you have like, oh, I don't want to film in front of my bookshelf because I have like all my anime Funko Pops, I'm like, okay, well, guess what? Someone out there fucking loves anime and also loves your videos or your writing or like your author Instagram, whatever it might be, you know, like, your creative process, other people are going to be inspired by it, because I guarantee you, again, you are at least one step ahead of someone else, and then at least one step behind someone else. So there's always something to strive for, and there's also somewhere that worse that you could be, and someone who's still going to wish that they had something that you had, no matter what situation in life you are in. Guaranteed.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the internet and the world, like the world is so big, and the internet has opened us up to all of it, and that can be a stressful thing, but it can also be a really good thing, because it means that you're going to find more people that you connect with and who are watching like your message or reading, or you know, whatever you're putting out into the world. Like, people are going to connect with it. You're going to find people who do, and also you can connect with other people who have similar spaces to you, and you can look at what they've done with their spaces, and Pinterest is your friend. So there's a lot to be said about, you know, community for giving inspiration for what you can do if you're not too sure what to do about it.
Oh yeah, Pinterest. I was all over Pinterest when I was designing this office. I was like, okay, I want this, and this. I
Exactly.
literally found specific things on Pinterest and then found them on Amazon through the linked image and then purchased them for this office space.
But yeah, I mean, you'll find inspiration all over the place. The internet is a wide open realm for you to explore. And yeah, I think we're coming up to like an hour and a half, which I think is pretty great for our welcome back episode. So, was
Yes.
there anything else you wanted to touch on with your space other than directing people to your vlog where they can see more?
No, I think that's it. Just get ready for more vlogs, more videos from me from my personal channel if you guys want to check that out. It'll be in this nice, beautiful office space, so I hope you guys like everything that I've done with it. And if you don't, too bad, it's my space. um,
Exactly.
and yeah, I would love to see your spaces. So feel free to
Mm-hmm.
tag us in some of your Instagram stories and stuff if you've been inspired by this episode to do anything fun with your space or to work in your space. Because we'd love to see it, because I'm always looking at new office inspo.
Yes, I would absolutely love to see what you're doing as well. And if you're also traveling, let us know what you're doing to personalize your space, your zone that you wind up in, because I would love to see what everyone else is doing. And let me know about your weird little travel trinkets if you have any.
Yes, anyone who have any more dinosaurs, please share them.
Travel Dinosaur Club. The dinosaurs, they are traveling.
Well, I think that's it from our episode. So I'm so happy to be back. And I
Me
hope you
too.
guys are looking forward to the rest of these episodes. So if you have any other ideas as well that you would like to see from us, do comment them below if you're on YouTube, or DM us if you are listening on Spotify. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of those things.
Yeah, and also I wanted to give a welcome to anyone who has newly subscribed while we are on hiatus. Thank you for joining in and waiting. And I mean, also thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. But we put out some shorts, and I think that some people watch those and subscribe from those. So we're really appreciative to have you here, and we can't wait to create more interesting conversations for you.
Definitely. And we can't wait to come back full swing with you guys soon. Well, soon, as in right now.
We're
So
doing it
welcome back.
now. It's happening. We're back. Back and better than ever.